In this edition, we are focusing on how our world is at war. One is being fought between two countries where thousands are dying and millions are being displaced. And the other one is the war against climate change. The death toll is magnified, lives are disrupted, millions are being displaced. Bombings, military vehicles using large amounts of oil and gas, destruction of wildlife and biodiversity, contamination of our seas, land and air. And just when we thought that the impact on our environment couldn't get any worse, Europe is planning to resurrect old coal plants as Russia chokes its gas supplies. Austria, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands have already announced plans to lean back on coal for the coming winter. And leaders are worried about the energy reserves. They are planning to backtrack on crucial climate pledges to try and warm up homes during the coldest time of the year. Moscow already reduced natural gas flows to several European countries, including Italy and Slovakia. And now the head of the International Energy Agency has issued a stark warning that Russia may cut off gas to Europe entirely. The agency has asked Europe to prepare contingency plans. Germany has sounded a phase 2 alarm, asking its citizens to reduce gas consumption.
We have a disruption of the gas supply in Germany. That is the definition, which is why it's necessary to declare this emergency gas plan. Gas is from now on in short supply in Germany. I am saying this even though, or maybe explicitly because supply is currently guaranteed. We are now called on to reduce gas consumption already during the summer and looked ahead towards winter. It is surely a deceiving reality we are currently in. Summer is here, a summer after a long period of the pandemic, and people want to enjoy time outside, and maybe without political misery for once. But winter will arrive.
Europe has set aside a huge budget for renewables this year. The total energy investment for 2022 was estimated to cost around $2.4 trillion. But all of these plans and the budget have been put on hold as some European countries plan to temporarily shift back to coal. Even France has reportedly reactivated some of its coal power plants. The union calls them very short-term moves which will not undermine the coal targets set for 2030. But is there no other way? To help us understand this better, we have a special guest joining us live from Norway. WION Tavdel, Director of Climate Consultancy Klima 2020 and former Director of WION Environment Program. Thanks very much for being here with us. I want to begin by asking you, is returning to coal the only option as Russia continues to choke the supplies at this point?
No, it's not. For instance, the International Energy Agency has carried out a 10-point plan that makes it possible to avoid import of Russian gas, and also without increasing the use of coal. The point is that it will be a bit painful for a short adjustment period, and I'm a little bit afraid that I don't want to do that. One of the recommendations is, for instance, to lower the temperature with 1 centigrade, which is possible to live with, but maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable. You can import LNG gas and so forth. So the point is that the politicians, they have this information, but they always say that they want to follow the recommendation from the scientists. They want to reduce use of fossil energy, and then they do differently. So it is possible, but maybe they won't do that. And what is the result? We can forget about limiting global warming to 1.5 centigrades.
Right. So how can countries balance this fight against climate change with the fight against the energy crisis? Unfortunately, the war against climate change has taken the back seat. How has the Russia-Ukraine war impacted this battle against the climate crisis?
Well, you know, when we have got this these restrictions about importing gas from, and also oil and coal actually, from Russia, then there is a problem. And then the reason for that problem is that we have not built out renewable energy in the pace that scientists have said is needed to avoid a energy crisis. So then, since we haven't done this before, and if we want to stick to the climate goals, then we need to suffer a bit. And the question is, are we ready to do that? Unfortunately, the alternative with a fast warming Earth is much more severe if we again listen to the scientists.
There have been tall promises of climate action. How would these countries then fulfill them if they decide to increase coal consumption?
Could you repeat the question?
There have been tall promises when it comes to climate action, a lot of pledges that have been made, a lot on paper. But how exactly will these countries fulfill these promises if they decide to increase coal consumption now?
Well, of course, if they increase coal consumption, then they in a way solve a energy crisis on the short term. But as I said, the International Energy Agency has said it is possible to do this and still go on with expanding renewable energy much faster than now. So there is a way forward that politicians have been told by the agency, by scientists, by the IPCC, that this is the way you have to go if you want to stick to the climate goals you have supported. The problem is that they don't do it. And then we have a bigger climate problem, which will kick back in a much worse way than if we now, in a way, make a little painful adjustment period. We have actually to reduce the annual demand for a short period, something like 10 to 15%. It's possible.
Right. Let me also ask you for your assessment of how coal impacts our planet and how bad coal is for our warming planet.
Well, it's the worst fossil energy source, with twice as high emissions per energy unit than, for instance, gas. And what politicians have agreed is to stick to 1.5 centigrade warming, and that means that we need to reduce use of fossil energy by 50% within the next 8 years. And in the same period, we need to triple the production of new renewable energy. So this is still possible, but it needs decisions. And let me just make one kind of to compare about how difficult the situation is, how bad it is for us human beings. If we compare with fever, human body has 37 centigrades, and for 10,000 years the Earth has been on 14 degrees. Now it has increased by more than 1 degree, so we have a little bit more than 38 in fever, and now it looks like we don't manage to stop even at 2 centigrades. We pass 39 in fever, and then it starts to be very, very, very complicated. And if we are not doing something fast, we can come up between more than 3 degrees, and that means over 40 in fever. So it is important for people to understand that each centigrade's warming is not, in a way, the more each centigrade makes it much more worse. And I think you have, for instance, seen this through the heat wave that you have had in India, for instance, in the last period.
Right. Thanks very much for being here with us and sharing your perspectives and helping us understand this challenge a lot better. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.